The sun scorches a wide-open field as a lone samurai squares off against a charging medieval knight. East's sharpest blade versus West's heaviest armor, a clash that never actually happened in history, but we're about to make it real. Not just once, but in 3 different showdowns. We're dropping these legendary warriors into an open battlefield, a castle siege, and a midnight alley ambush to see how each battleground changes the outcome. Oh, and each scenario crowns a different winner based on terrain, tactics, and each fighter's unique strengths. Open plains, castle walls, cramped alley, who comes out on top in each environment? Stick around, because these samurai versus knight battles come with twists, turns, and outcomes you won't expect. Which warrior are you betting on, the samurai or the knight? Tell us in the comments, and let's see if you're right by the end. Get ready for cinematic action, meme-worthy moments, and serious historical showdown vibes. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the epic and extraordinary channel. In today's legendary face-off, the ultimate medieval warrior showdown, we're pitting 2 of history's most iconic fighters against each other. A samurai of feudal Japan against a knight of medieval Europe. This is the classic East versus West martial arts duel fans love to debate. For ages, people have wondered who would win in a fight between these warriors. And we're about to find out in this fantasy battle analysis with some epic hypothetical showdowns. These fighters lived worlds apart and never met on an actual battlefield. But that won't stop us from imagining. Both were elite warriors, raised from youth to master weapons and combat. Samurai followed Bushido, way of the warrior, loyalty, courage, honor above all. Knights lived by chivalry, bravery, faith, and service. They're evenly matched in dedication and training, but when it comes to arms and armor, they couldn't be more different. Picture the samurai. Clad in lacquered o-yoroi armor of iron and leather plates designed for agility. Armed with the famed katana at his hip and maybe a longbow or spear when needed. Samurai were expert swordsmen and archers, quick, precise, deadly. Speed and skill are his trademarks. Now imagine the knight, basically a medieval tank. He's encased head to toe in heavy steel plate, 60 to 80 pounds of it. He wields a longsword or battle axe, and if mounted, a lance for thundering cavalry charges. That steel armor can deflect most arrows and even katana slashes, nearly impenetrable. But all that protection comes at the cost of weight and mobility. The knight is slower and less agile, lumbering under all that metal, while the samurai can move like lightning. It's the classic mobility versus armor matchup, finesse and speed versus brute strength and defense. So, who has the edge? Honestly, it depends on the battlefield. Different terrain gives different advantages. To find out, we're throwing our knight and samurai into 3 distinct combat scenarios to see how each uses their strengths. One battle on open ground, one in a fortified castle, and one in a tight alley at midnight. You'll see power dominate in one, strategy in another, and maybe a final outcome that nobody expected. Sound good? Then let's jump into scenario 1. High noon on a grassy plain, nowhere to hide under the blazing sun. From the west rides the knight, gleaming in full-plate armor atop a powerful warhorse, a walking tank we'll dub the Iron Mountain. From the east charges the samurai, in ornate o-yoroi armor on a swift steed, a deadly blur we'll call the Blade of Lightning. It's Europe's armored juggernaut versus Japan's lightning-fast swordmaster, and the ground between them is about to erupt. They charge straight at each other. The knight lowers his lance as the samurai lets arrows fly from his longbow. Thwip, thwee! Arrows streak toward the knight, but they bounce harmlessly off his shield and plate. He doesn't slow down. He's like a medieval Terminator, barreling ahead unfazed. Desperate, the samurai fires an arrow at the knight's horse. The arrow strikes the charger's unarmored neck. The horse screams and crashes to the ground, but momentum carries knight and samurai into a bone-rattling collision. The knight's lance shatters against the samurai's raised spear as they slam together. Both warriors are hurled from their saddles in a cloud of dust. They scramble to their feet, bruised but alive. The samurai draws his katana. The knight unsheaths his longsword. Now, it's blade versus blade. They trade blows in a blur of steel. The samurai darts around, slicing at gaps in the knight's armor. He even slips in a cut at a weak joint, drawing a little blood. But the knight counters with a crushing sword stroke that slams into his side, knocking the wind out of him and cracking a rib. He staggers, and the knight immediately bull rushes him, using his armor like a battering ram. He overwhelms Samurai's defense and drives his sword through a gap under his breastplate. The samurai gasps in shock as the blade finds its mark. A final thrust drops him to his knees. The samurai collapses face first in the dirt. The knight yanks out his bloodied sword and stands victorious, panting as the wind rustles the pennon on his dented helmet. Scenario 1 goes to the knight. On open ground, his superior armor and brute force carried the day. The samurai's arrows and swift strikes just couldn't stop the Iron Mountain before he closed the distance and struck a fatal blow. Heavy cavalry and plate armor for the win in round 1. Called that one? If you guessed the knight would win the first round, you were right. But don't get cocky, Team Knight. This battle's just getting started. Round 2 is coming, and the battlefield is about to flip the script on our armored friend. On to Scenario 2. Twilight at the mighty Crimson Fortress, a Japanese castle under siege. The knight is battering the main gate, determined to break through, while the samurai stands ready to defend his home turf. The roles are reversed now, invader versus defender. This fight will be nothing like the open field showdown. With a battle cry, the knight slams his heavy iron mace into the wooden gate. B.M. The bar splinters. B.M. The gate creaks. One more hit, crash, and the gate bursts open. The knight rushes through, only to face a second gate beyond a narrow courtyard. A classic castle design. Up on the wall above, the samurai waits with his bow. He has the high ground. Suddenly, arrows rain down. The knight raises his shield as deadly darts pepper him. One arrow sneaks through a gap and pierces his thigh. Not quite an arrow to the knee, but it hurts enough. He staggers, but keeps going, forcing his way toward the inner gate with arrows clanging off his plate. The samurai is using the castle's layout brilliantly to trap him in a kill zone, but the Iron Mountain just won't quit. Switching tactics, the samurai disappears from the rampart. The courtyard falls eerily quiet as the knight limps forward, catching his breath. Then boom, an explosion of smoke and sparks. The samurai lobs a small gunpowder bomb down at the knight, dazing him in a flash of light. The knight reels, momentarily blinded and deafened by the blast. Seizing the moment, the samurai leaps from above with a fierce yell, wielding a naginata. He drops like a hawk, poised to strike. The knight's instincts kick in at the last moment. His blade whistles past knight's head. A narrow miss. The samurai lands gracefully. Now it's one-on-one in the smoky courtyard. Samurai versus knight at close quarters. The knight swings his mace in a wide arc and whiffs. The samurai darts in to finish him with his blade, but the knight surges up with a roar. He grabs samurai's sword arm with his gauntlet and swings his mace with the other. Crunch! He smashes his left forearm, armor cracking as bone snaps. The samurai yells out, dropping his katana. The knight slams him against a wall, using his bulk to pin samurai. He's about to crush the life out of samurai. In desperation, the samurai headbutts him with his steel kabuto helmet. It works. The knight reels back, dazed. He slips free, snatches a dagger from his belt with his good hand, and in one quick strike shanks the knight through a gap in his back armor. The blade sinks deep. The knight freezes, a choked gasp escaping his lips. A moment later, the mighty warrior collapses face down on the stone floor. The samurai, cradling his broken arm, steps back as his foe falls. Scenario 2 goes to the samurai. He turned the fortress into the knight's worst nightmare, using high ground, tight spaces, and a few tricks to outfox his brute strength. The knight's heavy armor that ruled the open field became a hindrance here. Meanwhile, the samurai's agility and strategy won the day. A total reversal of Scenario 1. That evens the score, 1-1. Each warrior has claimed a victory. Now it all comes down to a final showdown, and trust me, the last round is nothing like the others. No open field, no castle walls. We're headed to a back alley duel in the dead of night. It's going to be dark, and the ending might not be happy. Place your bets one last time. Scenario 3 is up next. Midnight in a narrow, twisting alley of an ancient city, the final battleground. It's nearly pitch black, the walls so tight you can barely swing a sword. No honor here, just two warriors stalking each other in the darkness. The knight edges forward, sword in hand, every nerve on edge. In these tight quarters, he's ditched his shield and shed some armor. No lance or heavy gear weighing him down. He's got a longsword and a dagger, plus a breastplate for protection. But he still feels exposed. His heart pounds with dread as he creeps along, knowing an unseen enemy could strike at any second. Above him on the rooftops, the samurai prowls like a ninja. Dressed in dark cloth armor, he melds with the knight. Armed with his trusty katana, he plans to strike from the shadows without warning. He spots the knight below and silently positions himself for an ambush. At the perfect moment, the samurai drops down from above, blade aimed for the knight's neck. Some sixth sense makes the knight twist aside at the last instant. Samurai's sword screeches off knight's shoulder plate instead of skewering him. The knight roars in alarm and slashes his sword in a wild backhand, but hits only shadows. The samurai has already vanished back into the gloom. Suddenly, a clatter breaks the silence. A roof tile kicked loose. The knight flinches and swings toward the sound. In that split second, the samurai darts out from a dark doorway and strikes low. Slash! His blade cuts into the back of the knight's knee through a gap in his armor. He howls and drops to one knee, but as samurai withdraws, he blindly counters with a wild swing. His sword tip slices across samurai's thigh, drawing blood. Both fighters recoil into the darkness, hurt and breathing hard. The alley is smeared with blood now, each of them wounded. The knight knows he's in trouble. With a furious yell, he grips his sword and dagger and charges down the alley in a last-ditch attack. There's no room to dodge. He crashes into the samurai like a human battering ram, slamming him into a wall. Wham! The impact knocks the wind out of the samurai. Before he can recover, the knight drives his dagger up under his ribcage. Stab. A killing blow. But the samurai isn't finished yet. Even as he's impaled on the dagger, he summons one last surge of will. With a raw scream, he plunges his katana into a gap in the knight's side armor. The blade sinks to the hilt. The knight's eyes go wide in shock. For a moment, both stand locked together, blades in each other. Then the knight staggers backward and collapses with a metallic thud. The samurai drops to his knees, the life fading from his eyes. A hush descends on the alley. The knight lies motionless on his back. The samurai gives one final shuddering breath and slumps over. Neither will be getting up. Scenario 3 ends in a draw, a double fatality. Neither warrior walks away from this final fight. Honestly, this might be the most realistic outcome when two equally matched legends duel in such unforgiving conditions. Sometimes no one wins in such a duel. A tiny bit of luck or a change in conditions could have spared one of them, but not tonight. Both fought like heroes, and both fell together. What an epic journey. 3 battles, 3 very different outcomes. On the open field, the knight's heavy armor and cavalry power steamrolled the samurai. At the castle, the samurai's clever tactics and speed brought down the armored juggernaut. And in the dark alley, both fighters took each other out in a brutal draw. The lesson? Context is king. Terrain tactics, timing. The battlefield itself can decide who wins. Change the setting, and you change the outcome. A tiny twist of fate or a change in environment can flip the result of a fight. One thing's clear. Both of these warriors were legendary. The samurai brought skill, discipline, and the famed Bushido code. We imagine a lone swordsman capable of a perfect strike. The knight brought strength, bravery, and that iconic knight in shining armor vibe, a symbol of heroism we still recognize today. Instead of a single winner, we saw each could win under the right conditions, which is way more fun than a one-sided answer. So, what do you think? Which scenario was your favorite, and do you agree with the outcomes? Did the open field cavalry charge thrill you, or was the strategic castle siege more your style? Or maybe the gritty alley duel left you speechless? Share your thoughts in the comments. These East versus West matchups are a blast to explore, and they show exactly why historical who would win debates are so addictive. If you enjoyed this Samurai versus Knight showdown, do us a solid and smash that like button. It really helps. And subscribe to our channel for more epic warrior battles and fantasy face-offs. More epic matchups are on the way, and you won't want to miss out. Be sure to check out our other videos for more legendary showdowns. We've got a playlist of legendary clashes waiting. Thank you for watching and joining us on this adventure. Until next time, stay epic and extraordinary.